What up, Wargamers? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Stoss, and today we are here to have a look at my first Warhammer Fantasy tournament at Queensland, the Old World Lives. So, how did it go? How did I go? What was it like? You're gonna have to watch the video to find out. But I can tell you straight off the bat that it was a bit of a mess in terms of how I went, gaining footage for this video for it. So firstly, on the first day, because it was a 2-day tournament, I rocked up, got ready, got all of my camera equipment out, got ready to start filming, and I didn't have my memory card. God damn it. God damn it. That was a kick in the nuts, let me tell you. I took everything there, all my stuff, all of the camera, but just that one little memory card was still sitting in the back of my computer, so oh boy. So unfortunately, I have no video footage from the first day. I have just got some pictures. So I took some photos of the games that I played, and even that, I could have taken some better photos, could have taken more photos, but I just got pretty caught up in the act of playing because, it's timed games, time limits. And over the last, couple of years, I've basically only played games while filming for you guys, for the channel. And I tell you what, these games, they take a long time. It takes a long time to film a battle report. And I've just gotten used to that being the standard. It can take, depending if the game goes full length, it can take a good 6 hours. It can take 6 to 8 hours even, with all of the setup and the filming and the stop-start nature of filming. It can take a long time. And these games were, 2.5 hours for a game. And you had to play 3 of them in the first day, and I was massively stressed about, being able to get the games in on time. I didn't want to be lagging and umming and ahhing and, games not finishing because I've taken too long. So I was pretty focused while playing on just making sure I was getting things, rattling along. So which did mean that I didn't document as much stuff as I would have liked to, but I've cobbled together what I can so you can have a look at it. But yeah, you'll get to have a look at what I got in just a minute. But if you enjoyed this video, I hope you do. It's a bit of a different video for me, but if you enjoy it, don't forget to do the YouTube things, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, do all the things. Any sort of interacting with the video will always help out the reach of the video as it gets out and about. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. You hit the join button, which will take you to a page where you can have a look at the different tiers you can use to support us here. So, if you want to support us, that's the way to do it, guys. But without any further ado, let's have a look at my first experience at a Warhammer Fantasy tournament. And here we are, all set up and deployed for my first game of the tournament, and I was matched against a Bretonian player. Now this guy's name was Elijah. He was a great player. We had a really fun game, some great banter throughout it, so cheers for an awesome game, Elijah. You were a sweet opponent, mate. So yeah, he has, so on his side of the table, off screen to the left, he had 5 mounted yeomen with a musician. He then has, just going from left to right, the 3 Pegasus Knights. He's got 9 Knight Errants with full command, then 28 Peasant Men-at-Arms with spears and shields and full command. He also has a Damsel on foot in that unit. Then he's got a unit of Knights of the Realm there with his General, Battle Standard Bearer, and a Mounted Sorceress, or Damsel, making up a full unit of 9. We have 24 skirmishing peasant bowmen, 24 of them, people, count them. And he's got a trebuchet there just behind the what counts as a hill on this table. And then to the far right, off shot, is another unit of 8 Knights of the Realm led by a paladin. If you want to know what is in my list, you can go back and just have a look at the last battle report that I put up with me and Damon, because we had a practice game with our 2 tournament lists. So if you want to know what's in mine, just have a look at the army showcase, the start of the video, and you'll see what's there. So just going to do some quick overviews of the turns and how it went. Firstly, what you can see here, the battlefields were all set up relatively simply. There was usually one hill, maybe a wood, no wood on this table, and then any sort of kind of structures would be considered impassable terrain that block line of sight. So you can see there to the right next to my slayers, there's some big rocky spires, which was, a big piece of impassable terrain. On the far left, next to my thunderers, there was another building just sticking out off shot there, which is also impassable terrain. And I did have one fence that I set up my thunderers along, just off shot next to the thunderers, and the building is also my organ gun. So yes, obviously I lost the roll off to pick the table side, so I did not get the hill. So I did win the roll off for turn 1, however. I did get +1, and so the turn 1 was mine. I didn't do a whole lot turn 1. Turn 1, I just rocketed my my gyrocopter forward, as you can see there, just sitting in front of the hill, just getting ready to start attacking his trebuchet crew and, hopefully start to march block. I think I plinked off one crew. There was another crew at the front there, and I plinked him off. I swung out with my grudge thrower, aiming for the big unit of knights with the general and battle standard bearer there in the middle, and scattered off and missed completely. Even with the reroll, got nothing, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure I guessed it, and I was landing basically right in front of the unit, so we'd be getting 3 partials, but no luck, no dice. For his first turn, he basically just moved everything forward as much as he could, moving the Pegasus Knights just, before the corner of the impassable terrain there, keeping them out of line of sight for the organ gun, but, most of the unit of Thunderers could still draw line of sight to one of them, and the ones that couldn't, well, they were going to shoot at other things. And yeah, everything else just moved forward as far as it could. His archers actually scattered up over the hill a bit to start attacking the gyrocopter. And his trebuchet shot out, looking to target my iron breakers, because of course. And he also had no luck with the scatter dices, scattering off into nothing and hitting nothing. But at the end of the turn, after magic and shooting, targeting my gyrocopter, he actually had my gyrocopter down to a single wound remaining. I think he took a Law of Life where it was doing, 2d6, strength 3 hits. I really wasn't too worried about it, so I didn't even dispel it. And then suddenly, the damage was coming through, and it was pretty rough. So yeah, that's really turn 1 done. So Dwarf turn 2 rolls around, and I did some minor moves, kind of like shifting my slayers and the unit of warriors with hand weapons and shields that are standing next to them, led by the runesmith, just into a bit of like a U shape, moving up to the edge of that impassable terrain and creating just like an interesting little U there, so that hopefully when things hit them, I was maybe in a position to get some flanks. I whipped my gyrocopter, further over to the other side of the hill, again just putting it behind guys ready to march block, and still putting it in a position to attack the crew of his trebuchet. I got to take some shots at some of his boys, and yeah, I threw my grudge thrower again, again targeting the general, and this time, pretty much aiming it right into the center of the unit. Love that. However, even with a reroll, again, scattering off, getting no hits, no nothing. Very sad. It was a bad day for the grudge thrower, or at least a bad game for it. I did shoot what thunderers I could into the Pegasus Knights, and I knocked 2 wounds off one of them, but wasn't able to kill one, unfortunately. So the thunderers that couldn't see the Pegasus Knights shot into the Knights Errants, and I did manage to plink one off the back of the unit, which is pretty great. And I also shot my organ gun at the big unit of General's Knights, the Knights of the Realm. And yeah, I rolled a 10 for how many I could throw out, but unfortunately it was just out of range. Oh, that was sad. That was a big swing and a miss, unfortunately, but you know, such is life. That's the way she goes. C'est la vie. And so yeah, Bretonnian turn 2, he has just, you know, moved up again into position, getting his boys you know, pretty close and spicy to start doing some spicy close things. He did charge my Grudge Thrower with his Pegasus Knights. So yeah, because of the small gap, he was able to still just line them up in a single line against my crew. From memory, I think he maybe killed one on the charge, but only the one, maybe two, I can't remember exactly, but long story short, the Grudge Thrower held. They didn't manage to break it and kill it on the charge, which was, you know, only getting one into base contact made it pretty hard for him to do that. And I unfortunately wasn't able to do any wounds in response. He is also at this point, you know, moving his big unit of Knights of the Realm led by a Paladin, you know, swinging around to come in front of that impassable terrain. He's not going around the back. On the right, out of shot, and his mounted yeomen are also, they are swinging around the back of the impassable terrain on the left there, getting ready to put themselves in charge range of my my organ gun. Alright, Dwarf turn 3 rolls around, and then again, there wasn't a whole lot I could do at this point. I did move my Slayers out of formation, just pushing them forward, so that basically I was blocking the path of the right unit of Knights of the Realm, which had yet to come into shot. Just making sure that they basically had to charge the Slayers or they weren't getting into combat. So yeah, just push them out, blocking the path of them, holding my flank there. Shooting phase came and went again. My Grudge Thrower was tied up. My Thunderers shot at what they could. My organ gun was similarly out of range again. I was still just trying to go for those the big unit of knights. But my Thunderers did manage to plink one knight off the unit, so, you know, getting rid of one rank there, but still just, you know, this is now 3 rounds of shooting and just not doing any damage. So, or not doing enough, you know what I mean, to stop the knightly advance. So this was not good, did not bode well for the dwarves. And that was really it. You know, I pushed my Slayers, I took some shots, I killed a knight, and that was really that. Oh yeah, at the end of turn 2, he also he killed my gyro, so finished off my gyro. Or maybe it was turn 3. Either way, I can't remember. But by the end of turn 3, maybe 2, gyro was dead. So very sad. The backfield was an open ground again, and his turn rolled around, and he charged my organ gun with his yeoman. He charged his knight errants into my great weapon wielding dwarven warriors, and his general's unit went into my hand weapon and shield warriors led by the runesmith. Now, it was a pretty gnarly combat, but somehow all of my units held, which is, you know, was a big deal, because a lot of the time, if the Bretonnians don't break the unit on the charge, they can get bogged down and then just slowly ground to dust. They kind of need to break things on the charge with those lancers. And somehow it actually came down to the spiciest of rolls. So, you know, my unit was pretty badly decimated, but in the end he reduced my leadership of the unit of hand weapon and shield warriors led by the runesmith down to leadership 2. So he won the combat by 8. So I had a re-rollable double 1 to stay, because I was down to leadership 2, and the first roll came out as a double 6. And I was like, haha, classic, now I just need to do the opposite. And sure enough, I re-rolled it, and boom, the double one came up. You know, I was yelling and screaming and, you know, fucking shouting out Grungni and Valea, and people were coming over to see what had happened, because it was a big moment, people, let me tell you. His yeoman did manage to... Actually, they weren't able to break and kill the organ gun crew. The grudge thrower was still there as well, which was pretty crazy. So then it was Dwarves turn 4. And in turn 4, my Iron Breakers charged into the flank of the Knights Errants. And really, that's all I had. That's all I had going at that stage. My Thunderers did take some shots into the peasant bowmen, and, you know, maybe got some hits. Didn't do anything in particularly fabulous, but whatever could shoot did some shots. And then we were back to combat. The Iron Breakers and the Warriors with great weapons, you know, smashed on hard with the Knights Errants, and we ended up breaking them, and they ran, and because of the gap that they ran through between the General's unit and the men-at-arms, the Iron Breakers ended up slamming, you know, overrunning or pursuing, I should say, into the men-at-arms front, and my Warriors with great weapons ended up clipping the side of those Knights of the Realm and slamming into their flank. During this combat, the Mounted Yeoman did end up finishing off the organ gun crew, and then, you know, overrunning into the flank of the Thunderers. And the Pegasus Knights finished off the crew of the Grudge Thrower. His general's unit just continued to be locked in combat, and, you know, winning the combat against my Warriors with hand weapon and shield. We weren't really putting any damage back towards him, unfortunately. We swang, but he was, you know, his general was kitted out pretty gnarly and was putting in a lot of damage. And the unit on the flank with the Knights and the Paladin against my Slayers basically just sat there grinding me down. You know, I'd be throwing out what little attacks I could and just, you know, not doing damage, unfortunately. I was rolling atrociously, people, let me tell you. But at this stage, you know, after breaking those Knights Errants, my General's unit slamming into the Men-at-Arms, my Great Weapon Dwarves slamming into the flank of that General's unit, I was feeling pretty confident. You know, I had him in the flank. He wasn't going to have any ranks. My great weapons were about to come to fruition against his armor and just start smashing into him. So I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling pretty good about where we're at that stage. This is unfortunately the last shot that I have of this battle report. So I'll just give you a quick wrap up. But basically, what happened from here is it was his turn. You know, these units were all engaged. His Pegasus Knights were now free, so they declared a charge into the rear of my great weapon wielding Dwarven Warriors that had just slammed into the flank of his General's unit, which of course procs a panic check because they're engaged in the front and they just got charged in the rear. And, you know, I threw out a couple of dice nonchalantly with my leadership 10 and I rolled an 11. Oh boy, it was a rough moment. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it was a tough one. You know, the old sweat glands started to pump, but, you know, I kept my cool and allowed myself just to see the funny side and, you know, kept rolling dice. But yes, because they failed, they broke and ran, and because they were being charged by, you know, flyers quite close, they were immediately just cut down and destroyed, which was hilarious. And so, yes, suddenly I was in a very precarious position again. And from that point on, basically, I just got like locked into combats. My general's unit got locked into the combat with the peasants for like, I don't know, 3 rounds of combat. They just kept passing leadership tests, even though I was beating them consistently. with the general close by and the battle standard bearer, they would just keep passing low leadership tests. There was some spicy leadership test rolls this game, let me tell you. My Slayers kept not really being able to do any damage and just slowly losing Slayers. The General's unit eventually defeated and broke my unit of warriors with hand weapons and shields, and ended up pursuing them off the table. And that was maybe in my turn 5. So in turn 6, or in his turn 5, they came back on the table, and the Pegasus Knights, I think it was actually even this turn that he destroyed, and killed my both the General's unit and the Pegasus Knights both ended up off the table on the same turn. And then at the start of turn 5, they both came back on the table and rushed up the board. On my turn 6, I finally broke the peasants, but didn't catch them. They fled and I pursued, but didn't pursue very far for my short dwarven legs. And then, in the final turn, he slammed into the rear of my Ironbreakers with his General's unit and the Pegasus Knights, defeated them in combat. They broke and run and got ran down. So by the end of the game, all I had left on the table was less than half a unit of Slayers, which did mean that he ended up claiming, more than 2,000 points difference for all of the kill points, all the banners that he captured. He had some table quarters as well, and the only points he didn't claim was half a unit of Slayers. We were also using a tournament scoring system where it's like, there's 20 points, basically 20 victory points up for grabs, and depending on the difference, depending on what kind of victory it was, would depend on how many points each player got. And to get those 20 points, you basically had to have, a difference of 2,000 points or more, which means you basically had to table your opponent. And that is what this gentleman had. So Elijah walked away with 20 points from this first game, and your main man Stoss ended up with a 0. So it was a 20-0 game for my first matchup for the tournament. And ooh-wee, it was a rough one. But it was one of those games that just hinged on those 2d6 rolls. The game swung into my favor briefly because I made a leadership 2 break test on a reroll, and then it swung completely out of my favor again when I failed a leadership 10 panic test. So guys, swings and roundabouts, that's the way she goes. Alright, game 2 of the tournament, and this time I am matched up against a Vampire Counts player, and this gentleman's name was Sean. Now Sean also went 20-0 in his first game, so it made sense that we got matched up together because we both got pretty smashed. Poor Sean had to play some High Elves first game, and it didn't go well for him. Now Sean was a really nice guy, really fun game to play with him, and it turned out that Sean actually came to the tournament based on finding out about it from my YouTube videos. So the spruiking the tournament worked, at least for one person, so that was pretty cool. And through chatting with him, I also found out he was one of my channel members, so holy crap, that's super awesome. So yeah, I've hopefully organised for Sean to come in and have a game on the channel with me sometime soon. So expect to see Sean on the channel. So Sean has a level 4 necromancer as his army general, and he had a really interesting mix of magic items on them. He had one magic item which made them ethereal, so can only be damaged by magic items or magic spells. But he also had another magic item that gave him a 4-up ward save against magic damage, so can only be hurt by magic but has a 4-up ward save against it. A really interesting and quite a spicy little build there. He also had, for other heroes, he had a level 2 necromancer and then 2 blood dragon vampire thralls, mounted, heavy armor, spears. I think one of them maybe had a magic weapon. Not spears, sorry, lances. So yeah, even this, it was quite an interesting character build for vampires. The necromancer lord backed up by vampire thralls. Really interesting, really cool. And then as far as units, he had 2 units of dire wolves. One of them is deployed off screen to the far right of the woods there. He has 2 units of skeletons with spears and full command. 2 units of black knights, 4 of them in each and full command, and a unit of grave guard. So yeah, pretty cool list, very interesting, not one that I'd really seen before. And as far as the battlefield goes for this one, we had 2 pieces of impassable terrain, one of them there in the Vampire Count's deployment zone and one just in front of mine on the left. We have a woods at the edge of the Vampire Count deployment zone on the right, and then a hill on the right of mine. I did win the roll-off this time for who gets to pick which side, and, sure enough, I picked the one with the hill. So as far as deployment goes, you can very much see my deployment zone. It's just got my my organ gun there on the far left. You can see it just poking off next to the Slayers. And then on the far right, on the hill, I've got my Thunderers, and then just beyond them on the other side of the hill is my Gyrocopter. And as far as what you can't see for Sean's, is on the far left of the screen, on the other side of the impassable terrain, he has his 2nd unit of Black Knights with the Vampire Thrall, and to the far right next to the woods is the 2nd unit of Dire Wolves. So unfortunately, I didn't actually remember to take any more photos other than these. I just took some setup photos and that's all I got. I got a bit slack on documenting this one and just got into playing the game. So I'm just going to do a relatively quick wrap up of how this game rolled out. Now, something worth noting is the first game was just a classic pitched battle, and then, so all of your normal pitched battle victory points. And this second game was a special scenario called Assassinate. Now, Assassinate uses the vast majority of the usual pitched battle scoring points, kill points, table quarters. The one thing that you didn't get points for in this scenario was banners, so capturing banners gave you no extra points, but the objective was to kill more characters than your opponent. And at the end of the game, whoever has killed more of the enemy characters gets an extra 500 points of victory points. So yes, the objective was very much to kill characters. So turn 1 came and went, and I threw my Gyrocopter up the board and started harrying the 2nd unit of Direwolves out on the far right flank. And I'm pretty sure by turn 2, they were gone. I did a lot of damage with my Gyro, shot them with my some Thunderers as well. And otherwise, I threw my Grudge Thrower out into the central unit of Black Knights. Guessed pretty well, and I either got a reasonable scatter, because I still ended up hitting them, or I got a direct hit, I can't remember. But either way, I hit the Knights. Killed a couple of Black Knights with it, which was great, but I also clipped the Blood Dragon Thrall that was leading the unit. And of course, he had the 2-up lookout, sir. And poor Sean failed it. So brutal, bloody gutting. And then sure enough, he was only getting clipped, so, toughness 4 thralls, strength 4 thing. It was a 50-50, and I did get it. I wounded him on the 4-up, and then it was just a 2-up to kill him, and sure enough, I killed a character, killed a vampire blood dragon, vampire thrall, turn 1 with a lucky rock. that was brutal. And obviously, as I said, this is an assassination game, so killing a character turn 1 was a big deal. His turn 1, he just moved up with everything as much as he could, swinging the far left Black Knights around the impassable terrain, heading towards my flank. He managed to get a Curse of Years off on my Ironbreaker unit, killing a few of them, which was not great. I wasn't able to dispel it. But otherwise, I held back some of his invocations, which is really all that he was trying to do otherwise. Turn 2 came around, I finished off one of the units of dogs and put some damage into the other unit of wolves that was, starting to get a bit close. I, threw some more damage out into things that I could. At this point, my gyrocopter jumped into the back line and just started smashing his skeletons and his grave guard with his little, steam-powered grape shot cannon, also just being there to march block and slow down the tide of the dead. And he just continued his advance forward. I wasn't able to, I tried in my magic phase to dispel the remains in place spell of the Curse of Years. Didn't manage it because all I get is 2 dice and having to roll a 10, I think it is. So it's pretty tough to get rid of that one in dwarf magic phase. So wasn't able to do it. Very sad. And then on his turn 2, he just continued to move forward. At the start of his magic phase, he did strip more of my Iron Breakers out of that unit, which was pretty rough. He, got some invocations off and bolstered up those units of skeletons so that they were getting pretty thick now, raising all of the skeletons that I managed to kill, essentially. He did also charge what was remaining of one of his units of direwolves into my grudge thrower, but was unable to do any damage. I don't think he even killed a single dwarf. And I ended up winning the combat because I killed one in response, so one crumbled. So, I didn't manage to kill them all and crumble them all that turn, so he did lock down my grudge thrower for a turn. So, they did their job. Turn 3 rolled around, and at this point, I'm starting to throw out some damage into things that I can. I charge my warriors with great weapons into the remaining dog that was on my grudge thrower just to absolutely get rid of it. My organ gun goes off on the unit of knights that is still pushing up through the center. Because as of yet, I don't think I can see the second unit of knights way out on the left flank. And that's pretty much my turn done. Gyro still just hanging in the back ranks, shooting things. His turn comes through. Oh, yes, and I did then get rid of the Curse of Years at the end of his turn 2 or 3. Turn whatever. Because basically he just, because it's a remains in play, he didn't cast any more spells with his level 4 just so that it would remain in play. I held, the vast majority of my dice back so that when he was finished with his magic phase, I threw my dice and dispelled it. So by now, units are starting to get close and combat's starting to happen. I did shoot one more time with my organ gun at his unit of knights when they finally exposed themselves on the left flank, doing some damage, but nothing too crazy. And then at this point, stuff is starting to get into combat. The Grave Guard and the Skeleton Warriors with the Ethereal Necromancer ended up in combat with the Great Weapon Warriors on the far flank. One unit of skeletons ended up in combat with the Hand Weapon and Shield Warriors that this time were being led by my Battle Standard Bearer. And at this point, that unit had, swollen quite a bit. It had gotten fairly large because I'd been getting, pretty hurt by that Curse of Years, so was usually holding my dice back to try and dispel that, which was allowing him to get some invocates off, and suddenly those skeleton units were getting pretty large. The unit of Black Knights in the middle ended up charging into my General's unit. The unit of Black Knights on the far flank, charged into the organ gun, eventually smashing it and ending up in combat with the Slayers. I ended up reforming the Slayers to face that direction because I could see that coming. The writing was on the wall there. And then, then the fight started playing out. And he had also jumped one of his level 2 Necromancer out of the unit of skeletons before they got into combat. So it was just hanging around in the back lines by itself. Now, the combats ended up, going out in a pretty spicy fashion. So eventually, my General's unit and the Slayers ground down the units of Knights, killing them completely and getting the second Vampire Thrall. The unit of Skeletons and Graveguard ended up, beating my unit of Warriors one round when I whiffed my attacks a bit, and because there was more of them and it's a fear-causing unit, they broke, they ran, they died. My central unit with the Battle Standard Bearer against just a unit of skeletons. We beat them down pretty good for a round or two. And then similarly, let him get a couple of invocates off so that suddenly he was of a greater unit strength than me. And, he had killed one or two dwarves here or there. And I whiffed a round of attacks. He won the combat by like one. They broke, they ran, they got destroyed. Oh, my battle standard bearer. So brutal. So that was basically how the combats rolled out. I won the left flank with the Slayers and the Iron Breakers. Right flank got absolutely decimated. And then in my final turn, I did, over a couple of turns, I started attacking his lone necromancer with my gyrocopter. And because it was a single, 20 mil base, I was able to always get it completely covered under my flame template. But even so, it's a 50-50 roll each time because strength 3, toughness 3. And the first turn that I attacked him, got the 4+ and put a wound on him, and then it was the final turn of the game. And at this point, it was looking very close. He had killed, some very expensive parts of my army. I had killed some expensive parts of his. He had killed, my battle standard bearer, which counts as 2 characters, essentially. It adds, extra points on top. And I had killed, 2 of his vampire thralls. And in the final turn with my gyro, I did manage to plink off the final wound of that necromancer, which did actually secure me the victory. Man, it was so close. So the only reason I won this in terms of kill points, I can't remember what it was, but it was very close. Sean may have even been up on this one. But with that extra 500 points putting me over the edge, this game did end up as a 13-7 for the dwarves. Huzzah! So yes, I got my first win of the tourney. But I tell you what, it was a close one. I very much underestimated how good those skeletons would be. Because, I was like, skeletons in combat versus, dwarven warriors, fully kitted, one of them being led by my battle standard bearer. I should just win these combats, no problem. But all it took was, a round of whiffed attacks and him being, just bigger than me, outnumbering and winning by 1, and that was it. I was running, getting cut down. So there it is. That is the second game done, and Stoss has a victory. Alright, game 3, and this time I am matched up against a fellow dwarf player. Oh my goodness, yes, dwarves v dwarves. It's the saddest of days for all bearded little men. Now, again, I got pretty slack on taking photos and documenting things, so this is, I think, at around turn 2 or maybe even 3. I just get some shots from here onwards. Now, the dwarf player I was playing against is a gentleman named Billy. Now, Billy's actually had a game with me once on the channel before. It is the only dwarf versus dwarf match that I have on the channel, so if you want to go back a bit, you'll be able to see us play together. So yes, now Billy's list is pretty spicy. So he has, as you can see, 2 big blocks of infantry. So he's got 23, I think it is, 23 Longbeards with great weapons, heavy armor, hand weapon and shield. And in that unit, he's got a Thane battle standard bearer and a regular Thane. And then he's got 23 hammerers, or maybe 24 hammerers, with his lord in there. Now, there's a mixture of magic items and nasty things and magic banners, but he's just got a bunch of overlapping rules and things, which is just making those 2 units super tanky. Now, Billy also uses the 6.5 dwarf book, whereas I use the old blue one, the OG dwarf book released at the start of 6th edition. So, this is also an interesting matchup because it's 2 different 6th edition dwarf books slamming up against each other. And no one's really in doubt that the older one is a little bit weaker. It definitely has some advantages, but in general, definitely a bit weaker. So yes, he's got 2 big, thick units. He has a unit of Thunderers and a unit of Quarrelers, 10 strong for both. He's got an organ gun and 2 bolt throwers. Now he's also got an engineer on both of his bolt throwers, meaning that they have +1 ballistic skill essentially, and an extra crewman. And they both have the rune that gives it +1 strength. So he's got bolt throwers that natively hit on 3s, hit on 4s at long range, and hitting at starting strength 7. Oh, so they're spicy little pieces, no doubt. So yeah, he definitely had the shooting superiority with those bolt throwers and with a 24-inch organ gun, whereas the old 6, the original book, the one that I have, is only an 18-inch one. And he did win the roll-off for table sides, and he took the one with the hill, of course, because you must. So yeah, this game just kind of rattled along with Billy holding back and shooting at me, and me trudging across the field, weathering the storm, trying to get to him. Because he definitely has more shooting, and his 2 units are both big, elite, strong units. But I did have more units of infantry, so it was on me to foot slog it to him, and so I did. And so basically, first turn, I swung my gyrocopter up the flank, as you can see there, starting to get ready to attack his bolt thrower and his thunderers. And because everything else was a bit out of range, I deployed my thunderers in the woods there on the left flank, and then first turn just moved them up, which got them just within 2 inches of the edge of the wood. I had to move my organ gun up because it is only 18 inches, and if he deploys on the 24-inch line and I do, I have to spend a couple of turns moving to get it in range. So I had to spend a couple of turns just moving the organ gun up. My grudge thrower swung out on the first turn and killed a couple of crew from the far right bolt thrower, and that was about it. Everything else just marching forward. He shot out with his all of his stuff, killing some things. He got my gyro down to a single wound remaining pretty quickly. He killed a bunch of my crew in the first turn off my grudge thrower, and by the second turn had killed them all just by shooting them with his quarrelers. Now, Billy had some atrocious luck this game with his bolt throwers. They would either miss, even though, he should be hitting more often than not, or they'd hit, and then he'd roll that first 2 up to wound and roll a 1. So the poor man had some terrible luck with that shooting. And my thunderers continued to overperform throughout the entire game. So, they were needing 5s to hit all game, and they were getting half hits most of the time, which is just atrocious. But yeah, basically I marched forward. Billy, as you can see in this first photo, did break formation with his longbeards, marching them forward out of the line of the rest of the units. And basically eventually I just marched my slayers right up into their face, so that if he didn't charge them, I would be charging him in my turn, and just held back with the warriors with great weapons that were next to him, just enough so that when that happened, I could then slam into his flank. And that's basically what happened. And then the general's unit and the other warriors with the runesmith just continued to march their way forward, with Billy continuing to pull back away from me as I started to get close to within charge range, basically. Just giving himself a bit more time to shoot out with the organ gun and with his bolt throwers. But again, just having terrible luck. The bolt throwers were missing or not wounding. They did hit a couple of times, and he did, on the left flank, did manage to kill my gyrocopter with them. But even his organ gun managed to misfire 2 turns in a row, not blowing up and not taking multiple turns to do things, but nonetheless, can't shoot this turn, so he pulls back so that I'm getting closer, tries again, can't shoot again. So, that was pretty rough. And so yeah, eventually my my Slayers and the unit of warriors slamming into the flank of them just slowly ground down the Longbeards. You know, we would just, you know, even if we lost a combat occasionally, we wouldn't be losing by much, and we would have general battle standard bearer range there. But more often than not, it was me forcing the Longbeards to take those break checks, and they held for a good few turns. But there was, you know, one turn where he whiffed many an attack, and I put in a lot of damage. I was breaking his ranks with my warriors with great weapons. And eventually their resolve had to break, and they did. They broke, they ran. I can't remember if at that point I did, I caught them. I know that I claimed their points at the end of the game. Either I caught them and butchered them, or they continued to run. Because I think it was in the last few turns that this happened, and then, you know, basically they were running at the end of the game. Or I killed them. Either way, their points were mine, and that's a big chunk of points. My other unit ended up overrunning into the organ gun crew and killing that as well. Finally, my general and the other warriors got to grips with the general's unit and the quarrelers. My warrior unit, you know, breaking and destroying the quarrelers, and, you know, the hammerers did get the charge on my general's unit, because I just basically just kept marching them forward, being like, all right, well, let's just keep doing it. Let's see if we can. I just need to force him to eventually fight me. And the hammerers got the charge on my general's unit. My general ended up in a challenge with the unit champion, the hammerer unit champion, and, you know, killing him completely. Boric, Thunderbrow, Thorixon people, he's going to kill a unit champion, and he did, savagely. But yeah, the turn that the hammerers got the charge, they lost combat. So again, it was some rough dice rolls for old Billy and his dwarves. They charged in, lost the combat. They didn't break, and that combat stayed together. In the final turn of the game, once, you know, my general was no longer in a challenge, we got the two dwarf lords in a challenge against each other, and neither was able to land a wound or, you know, put a wound across. It was just, you know, we'd do hits, we'd do wounds, but the armor and ward saves of the dwarves, you know, kept them completely safe. And yeah, final turn. I don't think I ever broke the hammerers. They stayed there for the game. But in the end, it was the dwarves of Karakern that got the victory. You know, we had killed the quarrelers, we had destroyed the thunderers, we had destroyed the Longbeards, or at least, you know, gotten all of the points for the Longbeards. We'd captured the banners. We'd done all the things, and we'd even gotten some table quarters, so it was actually a pretty big victory in the end. And this one was a bit of an upset, because Billy's list was one that was considered to be one of the top ones at the tournament, and was perhaps in contention to win. So this was definitely a bit of an upset, because my list was, you know, maybe not considered to be one of the good ones, and that's fair. I'm not exactly a tournament player, but so yeah, this was a wild swing, largely due to dice, but it is a dice game, and that's how she goes. So after all the points were tallied, and, you know, all of the blood was scraped from the field and the dust settled, this was another win for Christos, and it was a 16-4, 16 for me. So yes, at the end of day one, I had 2 wins out of my 3 games, and I was sitting on 29 points. Not too shabby and not too bad, and that was the end of day 1. Alright, I am here with Angus, the tournament organizer of Queensland, the old world lives. It'll never die, baby. So firstly, Angus, thank you for spending this time with us this morning, just to have a bit of a chat with us. And I suppose my first question is, have you ever done anything like this before, and what made you decide to put on this event?
Yeah, mate, so I guess it's a good question. I have run a few 9th Age events, because that's what got me back into the hobby, but this is actually the first ever Warhammer Fantasy battle tournament I've run. So I think I kind of just piggybacked off the back of CanCon's success with 50 players.
Hell yeah.
And a few other big events that have been run this year. So thought, Queensland needs to get be a part of it. So yeah, here we are.
Here we are indeed. And this is day two of the tournament at this point. How do you feel like it's been going so far?
I think it's been really good. There's been no arguments, which is always good. Even some of the rules queries and stuff. There hasn't been anything tense. I think it's been, definitely played in the spirit of the game.
Love that. It's all been very amicable.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's been really interesting is you've seen that, quite often in a tournament you'll get one or two players that really get ahead.
Rise to the top.
We've got 4 players that right now could take it out, but there's probably still another 2 or 3 that, depending on how some of those results go, that could actually come back and win the event.
Totally. It's looking spicy, people. It's looking really interesting.
Now, unfortunately, at this stage, the camera actually cuts out. I don't know why. There was a problem with my memory card, I think, but I lost the remainder of the interview. Really sad, really annoying, because it was actually a really great interview with Angus. So yeah, that sucks. This whole situation was plagued. Plagued by technical issues. But yeah, don't forget to check out Angus's podcast on Podbean, the War Dollies, and also on Instagram, the _War Dollies. But yes, on to Game 4. And here we are setting up for Game 4, and this time I have been matched up against a Wood Elf player. Now, this Wood Elf player's name was Jay, really nice guy, really easy to play with, and he just had the most gorgeously painted Wood Elf army. Really, really amazing work here. One of the most beautiful armies at the tournament for sure. Now Jay was running a highborn on a forest dragon, which was definitely the scariest part. It also had a 3-up ward save for both him and the dragon, so that was going to be a tough thing to get through. He has a noble on a great eagle, and a level 2 spell singer. So low on the magic, but heavy on the punch. He has 2 units of 8 dryads, 5 glade riders, 6 war dancers, 3 warhawk riders, 7 wild riders, a great eagle, and a tree man. So yeah, a pretty unorthodox Wood Elf list. Not a whole lot of shooting, but just a lot of, fast moving stuff. Lots of fast cavalry, lots of skirmishes. But really the big scary is that dragon. And I just didn't really know what to do about it. So I just tried to throw things at it and see how I went. And we are playing the central objective mission. I do win the roll-off for first turn, and because Jay is going second, he gets the option to scatter the central objective, and big balls move. He does it, and it even works out. Scatters, back towards his deployment zone. So yeah, whoever has more units of greater than unit strength 5 within 6 inches of that objective at the end of the game gets an extra 500 victory points. Otherwise, all the usual pitched battle points are gained except table quarters. So table quarters don't count, but kill points, everything else. Alright, this is my first attempt shooting out at the dragon. I do pick my range perfectly, but even with a reroll, I scatter off. I do scatter into some of those dryads though, and in the end managed to kill 2 of them, getting 2 clips, 2 wounds. Pretty great. I check to see if my thunder is in range. They are not, and that is my turn. I basically just marched forward and shot out that grudge thrower. I'm just hoping to throw enough things at the dragon to force that ward save, because the ward save is a magic item that once he fails it, it is gone. So it's just a numbers game. Got to make him keep rolling dice to try and soak it up, get it gone. And then he basically just moves up with everything. His glade riders are just off camera on the far right, putting pressure on my grudge thrower. Everything else just moving forward into position to start encircling the dwarves. Going into magic phase. I can't remember what spells he's throwing out, but in the end, long story short, they don't really work out. Because one level 2 spell singer against the dwarven dice, it's pretty hard to break him. So I do manage to stop his couple little spells that he's trying to throw out. And then we go into shooting phase. Glade Riders throwing out some shots into my dwarves. No work happening there. His noble on the eagle did have the Hail of Doom arrow, and I managed to roll 111 for my armor save. Amazing. And he kills 3 of them with it. And then that's it. That's the end of his turn. And it's back to Dwarves' turn 2. And once again, I am just marching forward. And to be honest, I mess up my movement a bit in this game. Right here, I have just moved myself a bit too close to that central objective because it is impassable. And my big unit of Ironbreakers there, you'll see later, they get into a position where that just kind of... I don't know, they can't wheel past it suddenly and everything's getting a bit not so great. So my movement was not great for this game. I've popped, yes, here we go. This is my second shot out at the dragon. I get the direct hit this time and I get the noble. I wound him, but unfortunately he does make his 3-up ward save. And I just got a misfire with my organ gun. Oh, this was going very poorly. It's not shooting for 2 turns. Shooting out with my Thunderers. I do manage to kill 1.5 of those Warhawk Riders, but still, it's not quite enough. You know, maybe if that organ gun had, you know, cleared those, I could have shot the Thunderers at the Wild Riders. But no luck, no love. Things are not coming up Millhouse so far for the dwarves. I do manage to kill a couple of the war dancers out there on the far flank with my gyro, and that's it. It's declare charges time for the wood elves, and he's just basically charging everything in. I needed to take a fear test there because I am getting it charged by fear causing things, both the Wild Riders and the Dryads causing fear. And yeah, he's charged my gyrocopter up in the corner there, and of course I had to elect to flee. I didn't really know what I was doing with my gyrocopter this game. Just kind of threw it out there to try and pull some things back, but everything's made their charge. Glade Riders into the Grudge Thrower, the Warhawks into the Organ Gun, Dryads, Noble, and the Wild Riders into some Warriors, and the General goes in by himself on the Dragon into some Warriors led by the Runesmith, and the Dryads charge my Slayers. Everything else just kind of getting into position. He has another crack at throwing out some magic and does not manage to manifest the spell, unfortunately. All right, time to go into some combat. And we've got a couple of kills on my poor crew. And I make a spicy 6-up save. And I even kill one of those Glade Riders in response with the 1 remaining crew. Pretty great. The Warhawks managed to kill 1 crew from the organ gun, and in response, I put a wound back and kill a Warhawk. So, you know, my crew are doing amazing work at this point, fighting off the wood elves as they come charging in. I do declare a challenge with my champion in the dwarven unit, who is immediately killed. And then just all of the rest of the attacks come in. They come swinging in, you know, and I somehow keep making some spicy saves, making 6-up saves all over the place. But nonetheless, there's another one. Oh my god, just non-stop. But, you know, in the end, I think, what is that, like three 6-up saves? Ridiculous, just non-stop here. And I kill a couple of things here and there. I kill one of those Wild Riders, splitting up my attacks at this point, but I don't think much else comes through. And yeah, we're just counting up the resolution here, and it looks like that unit is losing by 4. So yeah, that's that combat done. Not amazing. Well, it looks like we're preparing for that break test at the end of the game. So just marking them that they're going to be doing a break test at -4. We're talking challenges with the General, and no challenges are done in the end. The General swings out and kills a couple of dwarves by himself, and the Dragon kills 2 as well by the looks of it. Maybe there's 3 kills total at that point. well, I basically just swing everything back in that I've got. The regular warriors do nothing, but then the runesmith swings out, and he's failed the ward save. He did it, people. The runesmith gets through with his great weapon. And in the end, I win this combat, and the general will need to break from combat. I elected not to pursue. And this is probably my single greatest mistake of the game. So I decided to hold off, restrain pursuit, because I thought, he's going to be flying 3d6 away and I'm running 2d6 minus 1. So before he rolled it, I was like, nah, I'll try and restrain, because that'll be break in formation, running, further away from everything else. I need my things here. But honestly, in the end, he did actually only roll a 9 for his flee, and that's achievable on a roll of a 10 or more. I potentially could have run him down right there. So big misplay there, big misplay. You can see the unit that was hit on all sides did break and get cut down. The Wild Riders did try to restrain. They decided not to pursue. And my unit did manage to not pursue as well, so stays in formation. My Slayers broke and ran down the Dryads and ended up overrunning into the Tree Man. And that was a couple of panic checks for the remaining units. Over at the start of my turn, I failed my rally check for the Gyro, and it continued to fly off the edge of the table, so good work, Gyro. And at this point, I have no idea what I'm doing with my units anymore, because they're in weird positions and I'm just trying to get them to face in directions that are useful. I'd realized that my general's not going to be able to wheel from where he is, so all I could do was try and move them around a bit. My Thunderers managing to kill 2 of the Wild Riders there. Thunderers doing a damn good job. And then we're just back to these couple of little remaining combats with the crews of the weapons. This time he finishes off the the crew of the Grudge Thrower, and also getting a single wound. It's going to be a break check for that unit, and it looks like they failed. I don't know why I'm running the 3d6 there. This is the combat over with the Slayers and the Tree Man. The Slayers did a good job this game. Killed the Dryads, and now they're swinging out against the Tree Man. Tree Man doing some damage back, killing a few Slayers. The the unit of the remaining Organ Gun crew did get put down, and it looks like the Slayers remain locked in combat with the Tree Man. Got a panic check there for the Thunderers, and then the game begins again, or the turn continues. So we have charges going out, Dryads hitting the Thunderers in the front, and the Wild Riders hitting them in the flank. His general did rally. I really, really hoped he wouldn't, but he did. The Eagle, the Great Eagle, moves back, as well as the War Dancers with the Spell Singer, all just heading back towards the central position. And yeah, that's about it. His remaining Warhawk Rider swings over. Everything just starts swinging around, preparing to encircle the poor, slow-moving dwarves. Trying to throw out some magic, doesn't manifest it. There's no real shooting to be done, so we're straight on to combat by the looks of it. Yeah, the Slayers are still doing damage to that Tree Man, and I think we put him down. And sure enough, yes, we chop him up this turn. Slayers just mincing through that tree, taking axe to bark. And now we head over to the less good combat with the Thunderers. Dryads swinging in. Or was that either way, it was either the Dryads or the Wild Riders. No, sorry, the Glade Riders. And now I'm swinging back with what I have left, getting a few hits, converting a couple of wounds, and killing a couple of Dryads to boot. And that's a big deal, because those Dryads are now no longer a scoring unit. In terms of, because you need above unit strength 5 to be able to do stuff on the to claim the objective in the center. All right, we're back to dwarf turn, and I am once again just fumbling around in the middle with my movement. I don't know how to protect things anymore with these 3 units that I have remaining. I got the warriors with hand, weapon, and shield just to do a big wheel to at least face the front of the against the general. My general's unit, just kept facing that way, realizing that at least his flank was secure because he couldn't get charged in the flank by the general on the dragon because it wouldn't fit in. I decided to back up my 1.5 inches there, just seeing if I can get some people in front arc or whatnot. I'm just, like I said, just fumbling around. I didn't really know how to protect myself at this point. This was just in a very terrible position. Couldn't do much about it. And the Slayers as well. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just continue to stay on the objective and wheel my way around it. We're looking at the combat at this point. My boys did end up failing, breaking, and getting cut down, fleeing towards the center of the table because the Glade Riders were the larger unit. So this is it. Boom! It's time for the gangbang again. So we get smashed in the rear, smashed in the front. They do make their fear check against the terror-causing, fear-causing dragon, and here's me taking some really bad photos. But there you go, you got to see him. And yeah, he just continues to swing around and encircle me. At this point, the writing is kind of on the wall for me. I am just fumbling around with my movement, not really able to protect myself against getting smashed in the front and the rear by all the things. So yeah, I just have to cop it sweet at this point. But we're back to combat, and we've got the general again that's swinging out. We've got the dragon swinging in, doing large deeps, killing the Thangs, all the boys in the back, just mowing me down, mowing the dwarves down at this point as we get slammed from all sides, which is it's very much the tale of the rest of this game at this point. So I maybe get to attack back with a couple. I will at least get to attack back with my Runesmith. Runesmith puts out some damage and maybe misses everything. So it looks like here I am losing by, looks like a lot. So we break automatically, figuring out who I would be fleeing from at this point, and am immediately cut down. So the unit is destroyed, the Runesmith is gone, Thalgrim's Spellsbane is put down, and the rest of them just continue up the board as they pursue in the direction that I would have been fleeing, and that's the turn done. But ooh-wee, it was savage. I am again just sitting here being like, I don't know what to do. I'll charge this this Great Eagle that you've put in front of me. I'll continue to wheel around the central objective with my Slayers, putting out the banners that he's captured at this point, because I was like, oh yeah, we need to be tracking who's killed what banners. He's killed them all. he's got all the banners. So yeah, and then I get this one fabulous moment where I destroy the great bird with my general, checking that nothing's in panic range. Nothing was, and I decide to overrun. So I just overrun forward a whole 4 inches. Junk. And there we are. That's my turn done. Not a very eventful one. Moved a little bit. Smashed into the eagle that was, blocking me from being able to do things, and that was it. Wood Elf turn again. He just flies everything around to continue to encircle me, moving the Wild Riders back as well. Everything just, punching around me, getting ready for another sweet gang. Throwing in a couple of shots from the boys that have bows, not doing any damage. And then it comes to Dwarves' final turn. Last turn of the game for Dwarves, turn 6. I turn around. I pass my terror test, because this is the first time they've been enraged to terrify me. Couple more spicy little photos. Giving you some different angles here, huzzah. And then it is Wood Elf's final turn of the game. He does decide to charge me with everything. Thought about it for a little while, whether it was even in his best interest to fight me at this point. He could have just moved everything onto the objective and that would have been that. But he decided, fight, let's fight. So, I applaud you. I applaud you for the fight there, sir. And then it just goes. This time his general does declare a challenge. And I accept with Boric Thunderbrow Thorixon. And I managed to make my armor save against, and here comes out some spicy armor saves, but that was actually me swinging back. Now he had the annoyance of nettling on his general, which meant that in a challenge you could only hit the general on 6s, and because the general was down to 2 wounds remaining, I thought, you know what, on these 4 dice, if I somehow get 2 6s and then wounding on 2s, he'll have no armor save. If I kill the general, I can at least get some points back here. But I did only roll 1 6, which was a bit sad to hit, and I did cause the wound, but not enough to claim the points of the general. The rest of the combat rolls out with, me failing lots of armor saves for my poor dwarves. And killing a wild rider in response. Looking at who can attack back, but not really anyone else can. And here's the count up. The count is high. So it's a lot. It looks like it ends up as 8. So down to leadership 2, a re-rollable leadership 2, and I get a 4. So not good enough. Not good enough. The unit will break. He decides who will chase at this point, if anyone, and some of them do. And I do go a whopping 9, but he does catch me with one of the flyers. And that is the game. Now, that game did end up going as a 19-1. Oh, that was painful, let me tell you. So yes, getting 1 point for the game in the end, and that was it. That was the game. That is the end of Game 4. So after Game 4, I decided to do just a little walk around of the venue, having a look at the couple of games that were still in progress, and just everybody's army. Because after they were finished, we were supposed to set our army up for the painting scores, because you could get some victory points for having, fully painted armies with matching movement trays and all that kind of stuff. I think there was 20 victory points on offer in the end for having a fully painted army. Just basically just to encourage people to, have painted armies at the tournament, which I think is fine. So yeah, before you saw the 2 Bretonnian people, the 2 Bretonnian players post-battle, just having a chat after the Bretonnian Civil War. Here we have one of the High Elf players against one of the Chaos players, the remains of the battle. This Chaos army was also one of the really nice looking armies. Unfortunately, I didn't get any shots of it while it was all put together. But yeah, really, really nice. Some really cool, interesting, demon proxies. This, of course, you will have seen before if you've been watching my channel. This is Dwayne's, immaculately painted and beautifully converted Slanesh army. God, it's a thing of beauty. Here we've got a battle against, we've got the Dead versus the Dead. We've got the Tomb Kings of Khemri versus a Vampire Counts player. And they were using a Storm of Chaos von Karstein specialty list. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it sounded pretty interesting. And here we have the remnants of the battle that I just had. This is Jay's Wood Elf army. I'm glad that I got a bit more of some close-up shots here, some footage of his army, because God, just look at it. Look at the wings on that thing. Just everything you look at just has some beautiful detail, really nice choice of colors. He went the extra mile on all the bases, just really giving it that, that verdant, overgrown woods, that wood elf forest feel. Just gorgeous. Beautiful army. Can't praise it enough. Well done, mate. Over here we had the current top table. These were the 2 number 1 players at the time, number 1 and number 2. And this was a Lizardman player and an Ogre Kingdoms player. Now, the Lizardman player has been on the channel once before. That's Dan or Daniel. And yeah, he was doing very well. But, you know, ogres can be a tough fight, and the ogres had also been doing quite well. Here we have Sean's army. This was my second opponent, his vampire counts, and it's a nice looking army. He's done a great job. And I think they're largely 3D printed miniatures from, I think, Highland Miniatures, but man, they fit the bill. They do a great job. So beautiful, beautiful stuff from Highland Miniatures. And then over here we have an ongoing clash with the Beastmen against Tzeentch Chaos Demons. And it is, of course, Damon's beautiful Beastmen, and this Tzeentch army was also just, you know, really nice, really well put together. Everything's based and painted and all in, like, you know, a really nice cohesive scheme. Beautiful. That's a beautiful clash right there of the two beautiful armies. Just another little look at the ongoing clash of the Dead v Dead, with the chariots slamming in and the big old bone giants. Super cool. Super cool. Ah yes, and here we have Billy's Dwarven Army. Yeah, themed with, what's that special card? Belagar. It's Belagar's host, which is so good. Carrick 8 Peaks, I believe it is. The host of Carrick 8 Peaks. Really nice, super elite army. Well done, Billy. They're great dwarves. You know I love dwarves, so well in, Billy. Over here we have a very freshly built army. It's the second high elf player within the tournament. You can see we've got a mix of, you know, not fully painted armies and fully painted armies there, which is great. You know, it's good to just invite, you know, anybody that can come along and play. Here's my main man, Dwayne. And that's just a look at the venue. Just, you know, a nice little hobby room that is affiliated with a hobby shop. Irresistible Force is the hobby shop in Logan, Tanamera. Yeah, Dan. Nice one, Dan. And yeah, just a little extra footage of the #1 clash at this point. So yeah, there it is, guys. Just a little walk around of the space and the tourney. Game 5, final game of the tournament, and I have been matched up against Dwayne and his Slaanesh Hordes of Chaos army. So cool, and the final game is just a pitched battle. Now, Dwayne had been having a bit of a rough trot of it as well, and after my last game, where I got 19-1, you know, we were running low on opponents who hadn't fought each other, and I ended up getting matched up with Dwayne. So good to have a game with Dwayne at the tournament. Now, Dwayne is running a Chaos Lord on a Steed of Slaanesh. He's got an Aspiring Hero, and he has a level 2 Sorcerer and a level 1 Sorcerer. He's also running 18 Warriors with Hand Weapon and Shield. He's got 12 Marauders with Flails, 12 Marauders with Hand Weapon and Shield, 6 Chaos Hounds, a Chariot, 6 Chaos Knights, 2 Chaos Spawn, and a Dogs of War cannon. Yeah, cool. Just his beautiful, beautiful army. Now his hero has a really interesting magic item. It's I think it's called the Book of Secrets, which makes him a level 1 wizard, and he went the level 1 Wizard of Shadows. And gave him Steed of Shadows, and he had been having a fair bit of success throughout the tournament, just, you know, surprising people with a, you know, 20-inch flying aspiring hero that he would just fly out of the unit into, you know, into small units, or, you know, into war machines or whatnot. So yeah, really fun, interesting little build there. Roll-off happens, and dwarves get the first turn. Obviously, I did not pick my table side. I think I got up the hill once in this game. And yeah, I start out by flying my gyrocopter out in front of the woods there. Just basically, it's trying to get in range to maybe march block the knights, which are just off shot in the top there. And just be in a position to start getting in the back line. Move my Thunderers forward, and then shoot out my Grudge Thrower, aiming for the Chaos Warriors. Scatters off into nowhere, and then with the reroll, scatters just clipping the edge of the unit there. clipping a couple of dudes, and in the end, killing a single Chaos Warrior. I did move my Thunderers forward because I wasn't 100% sure if he was on the 24-inch line or not. Turns out he probably was, and I didn't need to move. Shot into the cannon and did no damage. Alright, Chaos turn, and he is just surging forward with the spawn and with all the things. Everything basically just marching up the field, getting ready to do that dastardly Chaos work. We checked to see if those knights were march blocked with the general, and unfortunately they were just out. Boo me. No good. And yeah, the rest of the movement phase just continues up. His unit of Chaos Warriors there swinging out to get some line of sight on my gyro, which I could only assume was in preparation to throw that Chaos Exalted Champion at me. And that's it. We go into the magic phase. We've got some considerations as to what we're doing. He starts out, I think, trying to throw a damaging spell into my gyro, but unfortunately his sorcerer didn't have line of sight in the end. We checked it and could not actually see the gyro. We've got another spell coming out. And I believe this one was him attempting to cast the Steed of Shadows, and I stopped it because I wasn't having it. Wasn't having him throwing that filthy exalted champion into my unit. Shooting out with the cannon now, trying to go for my warriors. And he's ended up, right in front of them, rolled it out, and unfortunately has flown straight over the top. No luck there from the old artillery dice. Perhaps over-guessing just a little bit. You do want to be a little further back for that exact reason to start off with, just so you don't end up flying over. Alright, back to Dwarves turn 2. I fly my gyro onto the other side of his knights just to start actually march blocking them. And, seeing if I can plink some wounds with the little cannon. The rest of the Dwarven line decides to move up just to close ranks with the Thunderers that ambled forward. And that's it. We're back to throwing out another Grudge Thrower, and I'm picking my spots effectively, re-rolling, and we scatter back, getting no love, no dice this time, unfortunately. And at this point, I decide to shoot my my organ gun into the Great Worm, and it looks like I get 8 hits with it, and we need 3 wounds I think on 3s, and I did. I killed it in a puff of black powder and smoke and vaporized the Great Worm with the organ gun. Love that. We have another crack at the Thunderers against the cannon. And this time managed to plink one of the crew off, and and then I start having a crack to see how many knights I'm getting over there with my gyro. I think I end up getting a bunch under the template, 1 fully covered or 2 fully covered and 4 clips, getting a few into the bunch. The general is one of the people that gets clipped there. And I do manage to kill a knight, amazingly, with that little strength 3 cannon. And I managed not to wound the general. And that is my turn done. Another turn done. We go back to the chaos. He's throwing the filthy baby spawn at me, and it goes far this time. And then, everything else, once again, just surging forward, coming up to get into position to start getting ready for some charges, hopefully on turn 3. All the Marauders just pushing up, forming a battle line. Marauders with flails pushing up. And then finally, the Chaos Warriors on the flank pushing into the middle. Now I have march blocked his knights. He does leave, the general leaves the unit at this point, so he doesn't have to keep being slowed down by the knights, and the knights are just moving up, hampered by the presence of that gyrocopter. Alright, we're going into the magic phase, and we're considering what to do here. I think he goes for one of the spells that is pretty tough to get. I'm pretty sure he needs like a 9 or 10, but can only throw a couple of dice at it because it was on his level 1 wizard. He attempts it a few times throughout the game and unfortunately never gets it off. He does here make his make his unit of Chaos Warriors unbreakable, and I let him have it because I can't let him throw that Steed of Shadows Exalted Champion into my organ gun now. So yep, the Warriors are unbreakable. All right, cannon shooting out. Again, he's going for the organ gun this time, and it is currently landing right in front of the organ gun, and boom, does bounce through, clipping into one crew at the back. D3 wounds, does wound it, only putting 2 wounds in the end, leaving it on 1 wound remaining, and hilariously doesn't manage to kill the 1 crew, rolling a 1 to wound. Alright, it's back to dwarves. And dwarves are doing the classic dwarven thing and shuffling back, just trying to give myself, one more turn, or maybe popping a couple of shots in before those chaos come smashing into my dwarven lines. So we're checking to see line of sight if I can get a gap in between, and once again I can. I'm throwing it out and I get it right in the middle of the Chaos Warriors, and finally I get that direct hit. We're going back and forth here, trying to figure out how many boys we're getting. Yeah, we're even having to try and measure the bases, measure the template to figure it out. And what we come up with in the end is that there is 1 under the dot and 4 on either side, so getting 5 fully covered. I'm not sure if that's right, to be honest, but that's what we came up with in the end. And yeah, in the end we kill, I think, 4 Chaos Warriors with the smack. And then I hit them with 10 shots from the organ gun. I get the 10. So brutal. And kill another 7. Oh. Was it 7? I don't know, but I kill a bunch. The unit is, pretty decimated at this point. Thunder is going out, this time into the spawn, seeing if I can maybe kill the spawn, but I don't. I put it down to, I think, a single wound remaining. If I could have gotten that spawn down, it would have very much made me feel a little bit better about taking on the dogs. Again, cranking out the gyro against the Chaos Knights. This time not managing to do any damage, but still, I wasn't expecting to do much. To be the fact that I killed 1 last turn was a pretty big deal. So that's the end of my turn. We are coming back to Chaos turn, charges. He's charging, the baby and the Chaos Hounds into the Thunderers. Jesus, they were actually too close for me to be able to stand and shoot, unfortunately, and those were the only charges done. Mr. General swings around all the way around to the back of me over here, which was, oh boy, that was making me nervous. And his knights similarly just start wheeling their way around as well, getting ready to get a charge off for next turn onto my organ gun. And everything else just marches its way forward, coming up, getting ready to do some damage. And that is movement phase complete. We go back into another magic phase. Alright, so we again trying to get the I can't remember what it is, the spell that locks a unit down and makes them go into throes of agony and pleasure and makes them not be able to do anything for a turn. He wasn't able to get it off. And yeah, again, I'm basically just stopping the magic. Nothing really ends up happening in the end. So it's another shot from the cannon. He's drawing a line in between, going for my warriors here. And he rolls the 10 for where it landed. And again, just went straight over their head. He was getting some pretty bad luck with those artillery dice. Poor Dwayne. And then we're into combat. The dogs are slamming in and swinging in and apparently doing no damage, and the baby as well, doing no wounds. I throw all of my attacks that I can into the dogs, killing one of them, and the couple that have to go into the baby do, and I'm unable to wound him. So it is a tie combat because I did a wound, but they outnumber me. And we come back to Dwarf turn, and I am pretty sure that he has moved into charge range for my Slayers, so I declare a charge with the Slayers into the Marauders, and sure enough, they are just in range. So yeah, if we just go straight forward, we are able to hit and turn and smack, and so we do, moving in and maximizing. Warriors on the flank push up. you know, just getting ready to cop the charge from the Chaos Warriors. My other warriors turn to face the general, and my general's unit. My general's unit is, I don't know, do I sit there? Do I move forward? I move forward a bit by the looks of it. Just, you know, putting myself in a position to guard the flank of my slayers / you know, countercharge if need be. Alright, we're back to another shooting phase, and checking some arcs here and seeing that, yes, no matter what, those oh no, yeah, still the movement phase. I moved my gyro over. Very nice. Yep, shooting phase time, and I am targeting the general with my grudge thrower, and I have guessed a bit short. As you can see, it is landing, boom, quite close, right next to my my warriors there, and it's a misfire. Hilarious. So just not shooting for this turn. Alright, and it is another 10 shot. Oh my god, targeting the general with the organ gun. Randomizing 4 on the general and 5 on the steed. Needing 3s to wound, putting 4 wounds. Now he does have a 4-up ward save for the whole model. And I managed to put a wound on the general and 2 wounds through onto the steed, but kill neither of them. Unfortunately, at this point, my camera does run out of battery, and I didn't realize it. So that is all of the footage that I got from my camera. So at some point I realize, and I start taking some photos eventually. So yeah, we'll just do a quick wrap up of the game from here. So basically the spawn and the hounds, as you can see, slowly just started to grind down my thunderers. On the final turn, breaking them, or maybe the second last turn, they broke and got charged down and destroyed, which did leave the baby spawn, who I just couldn't kill. I just couldn't put him down. He eventually charged into my grudge thrower and destroyed it as well. You can see the slayers there in the corner that contacted the marauders with the hand weapon and shields. Just sat there grinding them down slowly. They didn't break them in the first round of combat. He made a spicy leadership roll, and which meant that I ended up getting charged there corner to corner by the chariot, which did, you know, a bit of damage, but not enough to, you know, completely destroy the unit. Eventually, that unit did, I think the chariot broke from combat first after being beaten in combat, and eventually the unit of warriors, the marauders ended up breaking as well. So yeah, that combat just continued for a while, but the slayers did eventually win, breaking both units, charging down the unit of marauders, and eventually even following the chariot into the background, into the backfield, charging it as well and destroying it, just chopping it into kindling. So slayers did a great job killing everything it touched. Go the Slayers. They were definitely my MVP of the tournament. They were always either the last thing left alive or the thing that just did a bunch of killing. So Slayers, I love them, people. My general's unit that got matched up against the flail marauders, unsurprisingly beat them, broke them, sent them running off into the distance. And then you can see the general's unit here is actually, you can see the general, and on the side there are all turned to the side, because at this point in the game there's a big combat happening in the left flank where the general ended up, you know, charging into my warriors, and my other warriors that were matched up against the chaos. The Chaos Warriors got slammed in the flank by the Chaos Knights. So after my general's unit in the middle, you know, fought off these Chaos Marauders, they ended up turning to face, you know, the side here, so that there was only 1, 2, 3, 4 people at the front, and, you know, many ranks deep, so that they had, you know, a potential charge in the final turn. And there you can see the big fight that ended up on the far left flank. Before this point, the Chaos Lord charged into my great weapon wielding dwarven warriors, charged in and just whiffed his attacks. Something crazy. He had the Berserker Sword, which gave him extra attacks for, units in base contact with him, and just did little to no damage. As you can see, that unit is missing a single dwarf. So, mate, his dice in the final turns were absolutely atrocious. I don't think I put any wounds back on him. Maybe one, I'm not sure, but what was the end of the general in the end is that, of course, because he whiffed his attacks and he charged into a unit by himself, I did beat him in combat by enough that he broke and ran, and he rolled really badly for how far he fled, and those warriors with great weapons ran him down. Proving yet again that dwarves, natural sprinters, very dangerous over short distances. And yeah, they ran down a Chaos Lord on a steed of Slanesh and chopped him up. And yeah, as you can see, the Chaos Knights, ran straight through the organ gun, killing it and slamming into the flank of the engaged warriors with hand weapons and shields. And this combat went on for a few turns, with me losing a couple of times, but making break tests. The great weapon warriors there actually failed a break test at one point and had to leave the combat, which left the warriors there by themselves, which was a big deal because suddenly I had no rank bonuses. But the turn that happened in Dwayne's, I think, turn 5, and so when it came to Dwarf, turn 6, you can see the edge of the Ironbreakers just sitting in on the edge of that picture there. They had already turned to face and were ready to slam into the flank of that unit. So, that got me a flank charge. It gave me all of the rank bonuses again because they were back in the combat. My general Boric Thunderbrow chopped up that Chaos Sorcerer you can see there, and because you can see in the back left rank of the Chaos Warriors, there was a Chaos Warrior in that second rank, so as soon as I touched that flank, it got moved over, so I had a few people in combat there. And yes, I did manage to chop up a good few of those Chaos Warriors that turn. His Exalted Hero, which you can see in the left corner of the Chaos Warrior unit, had been in a challenge with my Runesmith for a few turns and did in the final turn beat him in the challenge and kill Thalgrim Spellsbane. But at this point, once the dwarves made the charge into the flank with the general's unit, I did end up winning that combat by a significant amount, and at that point everybody broke and ran. The warriors ran from the combat, the Chaos Knights ran off into the distance towards the edge of the field and didn't even rally, unfortunately, in Dwayne's final turn. And that was it. These are just, some last positions of the units with, the Slayers running off into the distance. And that was it. That was the game done. The game in the end was a 16-4 for your main man, Stoss. So that was it. Game 5 was done, and it was another win. So out of the 5 games, I got 3 wins and 2 absolutely crushing defeats. But that is it. That was the end of the final game. Alright, it is time for the awards ceremony, and unfortunately because my camera had run out of batteries, I wasn't able to get any video footage of this, but I did just take some photos. So firstly, coming in at last place, getting the Wooden Spoon prize, the Wooden Spoon Award, which in this case was a loaf of garlic bread, was Dwayne. My main man Dwayne. So he ended up getting 31 tournament points in the end. It was a rough one for our good man Dwayne. All right, up next we had the painting prizes. We had, first, second, and third for best painted. It was just people just voted on their favorite army. It didn't have to necessarily be the best painted per se. It was just your overall favorite, best look, best theme, whatever you decided, but just everyone's favorite. And coming in at third place for best painted was Damon with his fantastic Beastman army. Stoked for Damon to get a podium on the best painted, because you've seen that army before. It is beautiful. All right, coming in at number 2 was Jay with his incredibly painted Wood Elf army. Very well deserved. Apparently it was a super close thing for first and second when it came between Jay and the eventual winner. But, you could see he had put so much love and effort into that army. So very well done, Jay. Congratulations, mate. And coming in at first place for best painted army, I think you can probably guess it is Dwayne with his amazing Slanesh army. So he got the coming in last for the overall tournament, but coming in first for painters, the highest and lowest, the most prestigious, the best painted award. So huge congratulations, Dwayne, and completely deserved. Your army is just man, it's a real labor of love, a thing of beauty. So well done, mate. All right, there was one more award, which was Best General, and this was just the player that got the overall most victory points. So not tournament victory points, but just victory points added up throughout all of the games. So most kill points, banners, table quarters, game objectives. And so the person, or Best General as this one is called, did end up going to Jay, the Wood Elf player. He obviously did very well. I think I maybe helped him out a little bit with our game together, because he got a lot of points in that one, let me tell you. But congratulations, mate. You obviously played very well, doing a lot of killing with those spicy Wood Elves. All right, and lastly, we have the third, second, and first place, the tournament podium. So, coming in at third place with 83 tournament points is Daniel Stark. Now, Daniel Stark was the player that had the beautifully painted Hordes of Chaos army. I'm going to see if I can find an image of his army kicking around, and if I find one, I'm going to put it right here, because it was a really nice looking army. And this dude was super nice. I didn't get to have a game with him, but I did have a bit of a chat with him here and there. Really lovely dude, really nice, and he obviously played very well, coming in at third place with 3 wins, a draw, and 1 loss, 83 points overall. So well done, Daniel. Congrats, mate. Coming in at second place is a gentleman named Tim Stewart. He was the other Bretonian player, a player that I did not play, and he came in at 91 points with 4 wins and 1 loss. So huge congratulations, mate. I didn't get a chance to play with you or really to speak with you a whole lot, but coming in at second place with the 4 wins and 1 loss, 91 points, you smashed it, mate. So congratulations, Tim. Well in, mate. And then lastly, coming in at first place with 4 wins, 1 loss, and 95 tournament points is Daniel Mitchell. That's right, it is the Lizard Man player that has been on my channel once before. Big Man Dan. So he rose to the top early, and he stayed there, losing a single game, getting 4 wins, and ending up taking out the victory. So the difference between first and second was 4 points, 95 for Dan and 91 for Tim. So a very close tournament in the end, but huge congrats, Dan. Well done, mate, taking it home. And there it is. That is, well, look, if you want to know, I ended up coming in at 10th, 10th place, which out of 16 players on 66 points in the end, with 3 wins, 2 losses. Damon ended up coming in at 9th with 67 points, beat me by 1 point. Damn you, Damon. And he had 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. But he obviously didn't get, quite as badly beaten in his losses as I did. So there it is. That is where everybody ended up in the tournament. The old world lives.
And there it is. That is my first Warhammer Fantasy tournament, first wargaming tournament at all. Never been to a tournament before, always just played casually with friends, or, now filming battle reports for a YouTube channel. But never in the tournament setting. So, straight up though, I really enjoyed it, and it very much, quashed any of my kind of fears that I had about, what a tournament setting would be like, because I'm not a super competitive player, or at least, to be honest, I try not to be. There is absolutely, I think I am naturally, at heart, quite a competitive person, but I try to mitigate that portion of myself, and particularly when it comes to things like war games, there's a lot of opportunity for feelings to get a little bit spicy, a little bit sandy, and keeping the competitiveness to a minimum tends to, make sure that everybody has a good time. I prefer to focus on the fun and the narrative, because if I allow myself to get too wrapped up in the competition, I can get a little competitive. And so I very much thought that, the kind of people that would be going to a tournament would absolutely be more so on the competitive side, more than the fun side. But everybody I had a game with was super awesome. There was no arguments, no tension. There was still, laughs to be had when ridiculous things happened. So that was number one. I loved that. Great people, great times. Talking to Angus, he mentioned that sometimes when it can get to, the top tables, if it's between the top 2 players about who wins, oftentimes that's when things can start getting a little bit tense, because, everything's riding on it at that point. But, in the mid-level tables, or the low-end tables where I was playing, people tend to just have a good time. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about having a good time. So, and I had a great time. It was super cool playing so many games and meeting so many different people in, such a short time. Really awesome to meet people that are viewers of my channel, like Sean, the Vampire Counts player. Most of the people at the tournament that I met and I introduced myself to pretty much came back at me with like, yeah, no, I know, I watch your battle reports. And I was like, this is pretty wild. So that was super awesome. Loved meeting all of you guys. If any of you are watching now, you were all great, and it was lovely to meet you. Hopefully I can get some of you on the channel. But there is, there's plans in the work to maybe have some of them in. So yeah, the people were great. Loved them. That was really cool. Getting stomped was difficult but expected. My 2 matchups where I got, smashed pretty hard was Bretonia and Wood Elves, and both of those are tough fights for any army, you know what I mean? Bretonia was a strong army in 6th edition, with cavalry being, still quite powerful back then. And Wood Elves, were one of the later books to come out, and even though, army book creep was far less egregious than it is in, say, modern day Warhammer, it was still a thing back then. The earlier books are definitely a little bit weaker than the ones that came out near the end of the edition. And Wood Elves came out very close to the end of the edition, so they're pretty strong. They've got a lot of interesting rules that allow them to do, weird and wacky things, and they've just, but again, the guy didn't exactly Like, I mean, I don't know that much about Wood Elves, but that was not, when I think of a Wood Elf army, I think lots of shooting, you know, lots of Glade Guard and you know, gnarly magic arrows and stuff. But the level of shooting was super low and just, man, just a gorgeous army, just a gorgeous army. So yeah, look, to be honest, you know, coming 10th, and winning 3 out of my 5 games was more than I expected going in. I love playing Warhammer, but I do not profess to be, you know, very tactically adept at it. The basic level stuff for sure, but you know, there's some high level play that people can engage in that I don't know enough about. I just haven't experienced enough of to properly, I don't know, implement it in my own games. You saw in my game with the Wood Elf player, my movement was just trash, just terrible. I just, you know, as soon as people can outmaneuver me solidly, and because that, you know, that scenario forces me out into the middle, I can't just, you know, I don't know, hold back and hold my flanks. And just try to turtle up a little bit and not let him necessarily surround me, because I'm forced out into the middle. You know, once I'm out there, that's kind of it. And once some things are behind me and around me, at that point I'm just kind of like turning to try and face things, but they're just zipping behind and around. So I don't know. I need to figure out how to deal with situations like that a little more effectively and a little less like I'm just doing stuff and hoping. But I don't know. So that was, you know, that was tough. So yeah, my 2 big losses were Wood Elves and Bretonnia, and honestly, they are some of my worst matchups, I would think. Yeah, I would have preferred a lot of the other matchups in the game. There was the Lizardman player obviously did very well, but I still probably would have preferred to go up against a Lizardman army as opposed to the Wood Elves or Bretonnians. There were a few armies that I would have liked to face, ones that I'd never faced before. Never faced Tomb Kings, that would have been cool. Never faced the Ogres yet, that would have been cool too. Yeah, the Demons list, never faced just like a straight demon army either, though that sounded pretty scary. But yeah, Wood Elves was another army that, you know, I haven't yet had on the channel before. And I've maybe played a couple of times way back in the day. But yeah, they were one that when I was looking at like who would I like to play here, it was just armies that I hadn't played before, just to give it a crack. And Wood Elves were one of those. So I got to play them, and oh boy, they played me. So yeah. There it is, but I am super stoked to, you know, basically on the first day, as soon as I won my second game, I was like, all right, I have won a game. I've won a game at the tournament. I am stoked with that. If I lose all of my games from here, I will still be pretty happy that I got one. So, you know, I definitely didn't go in it with expectations of a podium or victory. I just wanted to not get, you know, completely creamed. So actually very happy with how I ended up getting, you know, 3 out of the 5. And you know, the reason why my overall score was so low was just because the two losses were big. But you know, overall the experience was awesome. Great to meet the people. Fun games were had. You know, wild getting through so many games in such a short time for me, because as I said, used to these very long form games these days. But a great experience. One that I would maybe do again. I probably would, as long as time allowed for it. You know, the vast majority of my time at the moment definitely goes into filming battle reports. And though I loved playing at the tournament, I didn't love making this video. The recording the audio later over the top of the things. It didn't feel as natural. It didn't feel as, I don't know, in the moment for me. I also, because I had some issues, I had to start recording the audio much later, after, you know, like a week almost after the tournament. So trying to remember what was happening was a bit tough. I'm also recording it, you know, in a room quite close to where my little boy is sleeping, so I can't necessarily get out, you know, my usual levels of energy and whatnot that I can while filming proper battle reports. So, I mean, but it was also the first time. If I look back at my first filmed battle report compared to how I film them now, there's a significant difference in levels of quality. So maybe it's just that it was my first time attempting to film something like this. But I don't know, you know, put it in the comments. Would you want to see a video like this again? I imagine this is going to end up being pretty long. And perhaps at times, I don't know, maybe a little stale. But let me know. Let me know in the comments. Did you enjoy it? Would you, if I go to another one of these events, should I try and document it again? You know, or is this something that was like, oh yeah, it was fun to see it that one time, but maybe don't. Let me know. Let me know what you thought. If you did enjoy the video, guys, don't forget to do the usual YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're still just growing this little channel out. Last time I checked, I think we were at around 3,700 subscribers. Man, 4,000 is not that far off. You know, a few more battle reports out and we'll be getting pretty close to it, which is still just very mind-boggling for me, but love that. Super love that. So yeah, if you wanna help us keep growing here and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, guys. If you are subscribed, hit the like button, do the things, guys. If you want to support us here, consider becoming a channel member. It's the channel members that are driving this channel forward. They're allowing me to keep investing, you know, time, energy, and funds into it. I've recently purchased a new battle mat and some terrain, and all of that is coming directly from our channel members. So to all my current channel members, thank you so much, guys. You know, the fact that I'm getting to buy these new things and the new equipment to keep the look of the channel, you know, evolving and interesting, it's 100%. It's all you guys. So thank you. Thank you so much. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, links in the description. But until next time, I'm Stoss, happy wargaming, and be good to your mother.